Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is January the 27th of 2021. I'm your host, Nick Freeman, here alongside Chris Rilloti-Larios, and we've got manga to talk about today.
Woo. Yes, we do. Exciting, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, not
a
lot this week is super exciting. Don't turn off the show. It'll be fun. I promise.
I will note, you didn't address me by my title of Lord or reigning, defending, veto in the bank champion.
I know. Yeah.
Maybe I should just hold it the whole time so that way you can recognize.
Your arm, so you can do what you want with it, I guess.
Now I'm just gonna put it back here. It's still in frame, so you know.
That bluffed pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah. Shoulder, injuries.
Oh man, how do wrestlers do this with 20-pound belts all the time?
I remember asking Lance Storm that question once. Particularly, I remember asking him, how did the belt from the one TLC match support all of Jeff Hardy's weight? And I think he didn't answer. I think he didn't answer me because I asked a bad question before.
So he was like, luck.
He might have been. I've told the story before about Lance Storm and me and my brother's question, so I won't go back into that again. But
oh man, Lance Storm, but he seems like such an incredibly, fun, welcoming guy. Like,
you know what? Lance Storm's, if nothing, he's transparent. What you see is what you get. And for better or for worse, you really can't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like if Lance Storm were to, I don't know, financially support people that people don't like, he would just be like, this is the check that I gave him.
Oh, it was great. Jim Cornette.
At least thank you for letting me know, Lance. I appreciate that.
It was the greatest moment watching Jim Cornette and Chris Jericho go at it on Twitter. You're like, how can you both lose is what I need to happen here.
It was also a really weird thing because the things that Jim Cornette were saying were like, man, I've got nothing to disagree with him on for once. Like he's got it. Oh, so I've got a little bit of a story to tell.
Okay.
That a few people on the Weekly Manga Recap Discord server, which you can join in now in order to get details of Nick's life like this whenever they pop up. I told people because, on Saturdays we usually have our Among Us community games, and I thought I was going to make it, and then I did not, because on Friday afternoon, shortly after I did a quick little stream, almost immediately after, it was less than an hour after that I started noticing it, my ear started hurting.
Ooh.
And my ear kept on hurting, and it kept on hurting. And it got worse and worse. And by the time I went to bed Friday night, I concluded that I probably had an ear infection. And it got worse on Saturday. And it got worse on Sunday. And on Sunday, the pain from the earache had spread down my cheek to my jaw.
Oh.
So after taking an afternoon nap and getting up and walking around a bit, I was like, okay, this is enough. I need to actually get this looked at because this is really bad and it doesn't seem to be getting better on its own. So I went into a clinic and the doctor saw me for probably less than 3 minutes before saying, yeah, you need some antibiotics. Here, go to the drugstore and take this and this. And within hours, I was like, wow, medicine's great.
It really is. There's so many times where you you just wait. You're like, I don't want to get this checked out, and then you go, and it's like a pill that fixes everything in an hour, and you're like, why the hell didn't I do this?
So for those of you out there who are like, I don't know if I need to get the vaccine. No, take it.
I have a very quick story as well. I forgot to tell this one last week. I guess I was so excited that I won the Vito in the Bank contract that I
It
must have
wasn't
just forgotten.
your life. I mean,
Uh,
your achievement.
yeah, it really, honestly, this is the only trophy I've ever had in my life. So,
Oh,
I'm really banking on it. So last Monday, I tried to get a couple things done. Uh, really wanted to get like a bunch of things handled, and one of the first things I needed to do was I needed to go to the bank. I've been putting off going to the bank to get like not like nothing major, just like I needed to get some checks deposited basically. And for weeks I've been kind of like, I just don't want to go today or something like that. Just kept happening. Finally get to the bank on Monday. I hate the current bank I'm at structurally. Everything's great. But the way it's built, because you can't go inside right now because of COVID, you have to go around to the drive-thru, and their drive-thru's super narrow. So I
mhm.
immediately get like super anxious when I have to drive around it. So I finally get there. There's nobody in line. I pull right up to the window, and then I see the sign closed for Martin Luther King Day, and I tried to stop myself, and it wasn't at the holiday. I need to be clear, but I did drive away, and I said, "Fucking Martin Luther King Day." I was just so upset. It could have been any holiday. I need to be clear. It's not at the content of the holiday.
Just the fact that it was a bank holiday.
Yeah, just the fact I get up there, I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's perfectly understandable because, like, especially now when time has so much less meaning than it did at this time last year, and even like it's also one of the things that you just do we realize when you become an adult, which is like, oh man, holidays sure are fucking arbitrary, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just when we decide to have them,
Once you
and
once you stop working at a job that gives you bank holidays off, like it's all fucking
or
nonsense.
going to class or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah. That's the big thing was like when I'm on the Monday to Friday and you get all government holidays off school, then it's like, I know exactly when everything is. I know when Arbor Day is. You know, because I get that day off. And
Yeah.
then it's like, no, I don't get any day off because the world wants to squeeze you for every ounce of manpower that you have to give, and they give you pennies in return. So you don't really care unless it's like Christmas or Thanksgiving, basically.
Pretty
So.
much, yeah. Uh, anyways, we got a bunch of manga to talk about.
Yes, we do. Uh, I do have, by the way, the recommendation picked out that we'll be working on next. But if you want to find out what that is, stay tuned to the end.
Even I don't
Or
know, so
check
this is
the-
exciting for all
I
of
haven't told
us.
Chris. It's whatever. So
You get to the end, we're like, Zatch Bell again. I'm like, interesting, but all right.
we're gonna start with My Hero Academia, chapter number 298, Sounds of Collapse. And Chris, I have to admit, beginning of this chapter took me like 4 or 5 tries to actually understand what was happening.
Now, do you feel like you understand what's happening?
Yes,
Good. I'm going to need you to explain it to me.
that is perfectly understandable. Literally, when I finally got it, I was like, could you have made it a little more clear that that was what was happening? Because you know how manga language works with, flashbacks, Chris.
Yes.
Black panels means the past, and flashbacks within flashbacks, gray panels.
Yep.
There are no black panels for any of this. You just have to pay attention to when it says, when this was happening. And if you don't see when this was happening, then you don't know what's going on at the beginning of this chapter. So this takes place, this opening scene, while the hospital raid is happening. It's somewhere else. It might be at the Detnerat building. It might be in the Safety Commission building. Either way, what we see is after a flashback to establish that, that disagreement between Skeptic and Twice way back when, they were arguing over who owed who what. That is to establish that this is a twice clone that is doing this. It is a twice clone of Redestro, who I guess they were trying to ambush as part of the raid plan. So they called him into this meeting, supposedly, with the Safety Commission, and he took on his monstrous form and fought them off. And he says some very, scary kind of things. Like, I've had to, have two faces this entire time. One face as the head of the Detonarak company, and one as the leader of the metahuman revolution. And when I knew that you two were going to be doing this, then both my faces were overcome with joy. And now you come at us with such fire and brimstone. Well, isn't this the system you've built up? I suppose that it was necessary, but we seek order without order, true freedom through liberation. The seeds are already sown. A lot of that makes no sense. It's the words of a zealot that has read 2 philosophy books and thinks he understands the world. Sorry, the introductions of 2 philosophy books and thinks he understands the world. So this is a twice clone that melts, presumably either because the Redestro clone has taken damage or because Twice died. And I guess that this whole thing was to establish, by the way, the people in charge of the Safety Commission that Deku and the others had to take that test for, they tried to help lay a trap for the president of Detonarak Corp, and the clone was there instead, and he fought them off. I don't know why it was necessary for us to know any of this, because the real Redestro was captured.
I was gonna say,
beat him up.
I kept waiting for like Edgeshot to show up, and I was like, oh, so it's not that scene.
No. So I don't know why it was important that we get this scene at all, honestly.
But we did. Huzzah.
We then cut forward to after the prison break at Tartarus, and we see that with the prisoners that were freed, All for One led a bunch of other prison breaks at a bunch of much less powerful prisons. And there was an emergency aircraft that required an official biometric ID to operate, which he accomplished by, I think, just brain controlling a guy to pilot it, honestly. I think that's what's going on. He could just be threatening him. I don't know.
It looks like. I mean, he had Meatball's dad before, right? So, I mean, theoretically, couldn't he have used Meatball's dad?
Meatball's dad?
Yeah, the one kid who looks like he wears a Nazi uniform, turned people into meatballs. His dad was one of the wardens last time.
Oh,
and
right.
He had, it looked like that's who he had under his arm at the end of the last chapter.
I guess.
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. Look, this may surprise you, Chris, but sometimes My Hero Academia is not the clearest in conveying what is going on.
What? But Nick, it named all of its prisons after obscure Star Wars characters.
Did it?
Supposedly, that's the trivia I heard, that Shion, Bagu, and Quinn or whatever are significant characters in the Prison Break episode of Mandalorian or some stupid shit like that.
Okay. So, well, Shion is the name of the prisoner that they try and get, I guess. That might be right. Huh.
That's what I've heard. I haven't gotten that far in Mandalorian, so I don't know. But I guess, makes sense.
All right. So, All for One in Shigaraki is hanging out with a bunch of people, and he basically just says, yeah, so all of the people that we helped escape should hamper people from coming after us. Spinner is freaked out that Shigaraki is acting this way, and All for One is like, yeah, I'm All for One. I'm just in Shigaraki. I'm just controlling his brain. But it's okay. I hold the greatest respect for Tomura's will. This body needs time to rest and be perfected. Once it is, our desires will come to fruition. Anyway.
I do like Spinner's line, though, about, like, hey, I actually kind of liked Shigaraki. Like, we bonded about stuff. Like, we were kind of both nerds, so we talked about video games and shit like that. I didn't agree to follow you. And he's like, but I'm the greatest demon of all time. He's like, I wasn't privy to that conversation, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But I don't know your Fortnite friend code, so...
He's like, have you even had a Battle Royale win? It doesn't sound like you have. And he's like, no, I know all the Fortnite dances. He just starts shifting his body around. He's like, just guess.
We cut over to the hospital where all of the good guy kids are recovering. It's 2 days later, so probably a total of like 3 days after the battle took place. Bakugo wakes up, presumably for the first time. There's a few people from Class 1A there that are excited that he is awake, and he's immediately like, shut up! Where am I? So, see, they made the mistake of putting anyone aside from Kirishima and Kaminari in there. It's all these other people that he has no reason to care about. Well, Sero he kind of gets along with, I guess. But anyway. He's not happy. They say he's in a big central hospital, getting top of the line care, which is important because, he got stabbed through like the spine.
I was say much. It looked like he was in super bad straits. So the fact that he's up and moving around is pretty surprising.
It seems like he's going to make a full recovery. Like there's no tease of like, oh, he's so badly injured or anything like that. So there is a very human moment where he immediately just asks what happened to everyone else, what happened to Deku, what happened to Todoroki, Sensei, everyone. And they look pretty grim for a moment. We cut over to get some establishment of... Okay, so I know what you're talking... I know where you're making this expression, so let's... Before we get to the plot stuff, Chris, why don't you tell me what you're laughing at?
I don't know why. The doctor looks like a fucking like a Saturday morning cartoonist just decided to like draw a shitty character to be like, Mondays, right? Just like, like this fucking weird ass Yoshi looking rooster shit. Like, does not fit the scene whatsoever.
He's giving all these terrible news. He's like, yes, it seems I saw that you had to slice off your leg, and I'm afraid you'll never be the same man again.
I'm afraid you'll never recover. Like, I'm sorry, could someone besides Hagar the Horrible tell me this news?
Like, he's like, excuse me, I've got a crying baby floating around in a bubble that I've got to go rescue. Also, President Mike is lamenting the fact that, Midnight's apparently dead. Aizawa, however, is just concerned with how the kids are doing. Gran Torino, by the way, is still alive. They saved him, too. So Gran Torino gets to live, but Midnight doesn't because she just dies off screen. Cool, whatever. Todoroki's a bit mummied up over in his bed. He's got slightly more important characters from Class 1A to look after him. You think that they like Drew Watts?
Looked, and holy shit, it is Bakugo really drew the B list of fucking students.
If you had to name 4 characters from Class 1A, I think if you subbed out Sero and put in Ojiro, he'd be like, why is it you 4?
What the fuck brought you guys?
So,
holy shit.
Yaoyorozu, Ashido, Kirishima, and Shoji are there. And yeah, it's like, wow, you managed to get everyone from like the upper third most important in there. So, they've clearly filled in Todoroki about everything that's happened. He's looking outside at this massive crowd of people because clearly there is a lot of press and public interest in shit that happened specifically surrounding him. And there are people, demanding to want to know, like, hey, what about Endeavor? Hey, do you know about Endeavor? Or what's going on with them? You must know, right? Is Endeavor aware of what's going on in Japan? Everyone's dying to know about his connection with Dabi, and they're just, hounding seemingly random people on their way into the hospital about this stuff. Also, Ashido is like clearly still like distraught over what they've all been through. Yaoyorozu doesn't look like she's slept at all, but she's kind of just going like, it'll be okay. It's like trying to be the good class leader kind of character and stuff.
Mhm.
It's pretty grim. Todoroki remembers a character that very nearly made the Chris. Do you know who this My Hero Academia character is?
No, I wouldn't have, by the way.
It's the Starlight Wizard dude that they took down while they were training with Endeavor. And so Todoroki remembers what he said, was like, oh, his shining light beckons the dark, it precipitates our demise. It's like, all right. Anyway, Todoroki analyzes from, I guess, after the fact, after his fight with Dabi, that his flames are stronger than Endeavor's. I couldn't win with firepower alone. Those flames full of hate are so strong. And he's been watching us all this time, all to bring down Dad, wrecking his own body along the way, and not giving a damn whose lives get ruined in the process. He's basically me. Hold on. It's not. He's how you could have been, I guess.
He's being very hard on himself right now and just making it a little worse. He maybe he's playing it up. I've heard some people theorize that Hangman exited through the heel entrance because he saw himself as the bad guy after not joining up with the Dark Order. I think it might have just been coincidence that he exited through that, but it would be a very telling thing about his personal state of mind if he chose to go through the heel entrance,
Chris, don't bring that up. You're gonna make me cry. that little speech he gave broke my heart.
Oh, it's the best. I don't know how AEW has turned Hangman Page, who at their first All Out pay-per-view, it's like, who gives a fuck?
Competing for the number one contendership. Never gonna work.
I was like, why wouldn't you have just made Omega versus Jericho the world championship match? Because this is fucking pointless in my mind. And now, if anyone ever hurt Hangman Page, I might I might break kayfabe to hunt them down. I can't be sure. I'm just like, I'll fucking kill you, Young Bucks. How dare you do that to my boy?
He was just trying his best. He was confused, and you weren't good friends. If you had been better friends, he wouldn't have fallen for this. It's your fault. Fuck you guys. Quit trying to be good guys. You can't.
You super kick Tony Schiavone or someone. I don't remember who, but somebody.
Eventually. I know they kicked the one. Anyway. Sorry. AEW is really good at storytelling. Okay, so. Todoroki thinks back to how he was in his, spotlight arc during the school festival and how he used to also be, raging with hate and stuff like that. And he concludes from this in a big full-page spread, which is just his face set in a grimace. Dad can't do it. I have to be the one to handle my brother Toya. So that's setting up okay, well, it looks like he's got his own kind of rival figure all set up now. Along with, Deku having Shigaraki. So, at that moment, Todoroki's siblings come in, Fuyumi and Natsu. And so the classmates, are like, oh, you must be blah, blah, blah. But at that moment, actually, Ashido establishes that Todoroki's throat is all burned, so he can't talk, which, that sucks. But at that moment, Fuyumi, looks over his shoulder, and there's a figure coming in through the door behind her, which is almost certainly Todoroki's mother. And the big reveal is that she's finally been able to leave the hospital ward she was being looked after in.
Who could it also be, though? Obviously it's his mom, but who could it also be to be, hilarious?
Well, I did actually take note, Chris, of all the different characters who aren't in these bedroom scenes visiting them. So, Uraraka's not there, Ida's not there, Jiro's not there. There's a fair number of people that you would think why aren't Ida and Uraraka there to visit Deku, for example?
What if it's the hamster principal and he's in a giant person suit? Yeah, he's in a giant person suit to explain why the silhouette is clearly of a person and not
recognize me when I wear this.
Time to be inconspicuous. And then he passes by that fucking Yoshi doctor. He's like, oh, what's the fucking point? He just rips it off and it's clearly just him operating a bunch of stick arms and shit.
It's like really horrifying too. There's like a flabby rubber skin suit with like big googly eyes on a skeletal structure going.
He's like, I spent 45 hours putting this together, and then you had this guy just walking around.
Anyway, Bakugo, after being told where the others are, has just decided to get up and go and find them, and is overpowering Sato, which seems kind of crazy. Sato's a big guy. Just pick him up. Pick him up.
He has that sugar recently.
I guess so. But Bakugo is concerned because of his not friend Deku has not shown up yet and has shown no signs of waking up. And so that's where we leave off the chapter with All Might watching over his protege, who has all of his limbs cast up, which, I mean, you know, if Deku's in a hospital, he better have at least 3 limbs casted up, because otherwise what are you even doing in there, dude?
Yeah, come on.
Will Deku wake up? Probably.
How fucking metal would it be if he didn't? Like, the series just goes on. Well, I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe where we go for a bit. That, like, we follow Bakugo as kind of a protagonist for a little bit. If you want to play up, like, Deku's injuries are that bad that you need to do, like, a big hero waking up. Or at least for, like, a small mini arc or something like that. I wouldn't be shocked. We could also just time skip, I guess. Or, theoretically, I guess they could just be like, hey, and then he woke up. It doesn't have to be, like, I guess, a big deal. I don't really know where it goes, but yeah, I thought the chapter was fine. I know a lot of people got really excited about it because there's a lot of like small moments of characters and things like that, but I think for me a lot of those moments were too small to even like really register. Like, I want to like the moment with Yaoyorozu where it's like, oh, she looks really tired, but she's clearly putting on a face for everybody, but it's like, I don't know, she's in like 2 panels, so I really don't think she could also just have bags under her eyes. Like, I just don't want to like feel like I'm putting too much in there where it's not intended or something like that. So this chapter kind of felt like a trailer for much more interesting conversations and moments to happen from here on in.
See, this is like the trailer we got hyping up season 3 of Cobra Kai.
Uh-huh.
So is Miguel gonna wake up from his coma? Probably.
Yes.
But
oh man, if I read this chapter and it was a dope ass rock cover of Angland Psy or whatever. Oh man, what a great trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that once we actually got to the main characters that the chapter did pick up, there was a whole lot of like, it's almost like a bell curve, not a bell curve, like, but like, an exponentially ramping up graph. Whereas, like, I don't care about anything happening between the Detnerat people and the Safety Commission people. I don't care why this is happening, and I don't know what's happening because it's very confusing. Then you get to, okay, yeah, the villains, all right, that's fine. And then it's like, oh, hey, all the people that are actually important to the series. Good, what's going on with them? Okay, people aren't waking up, people are injured, and Todoroki's got a rival figure. All right, that's much more important stuff. So it's stuff to get actually excited about, in my mind. Okay.
Yep. All right.
So
we talked about Boruto last week, apparently, because I opened it up and I was like, no, we did talk about this one. So we have Kaiju number 8 then.
Okay. So last time Kafka got his promotion. Hooray. And it's Mina who like meets with him like privately and just has a very short little ceremony with him. It's like, you're being formally promoted now to Defense Force Officer. And Kafka, salutes and says, I solemnly swear to fight with all my heart and soul. And then he's like, all right, I guess I'll be going now. But at that moment, Mina speaks to him, more familiarly and says, hey, don't go celebrating just yet. You're nowhere close to fighting by my side. And so he gets a little cocky and he's like, all right, well, you just watch, Mina. And she gives him a not really smile. She kind of like chuckles. And then she's like,
the sound effect says heh, so she did laugh.
It's like, all right. 50 push-ups for not addressing a superior officer properly. You can't let yourself get suckered in but like that, dude. Like, she's just got to keep on busting your balls until you wise up. So But as he prepares to leave again, she mentions Kaiju number 8 and number 9. And she says, those incidents require me to take a trip to headquarters, so I'll be away from the base. I'm leaving Hoshina in charge, so ask him for the rundown. And he is back to formality again and salutes. And then she says, just so you know, Hoshina was the one who pushed for you to be a general officer. Your exploits in the last battle also played a part in the decision, but he has faith in you. Don't let him down. So again, one of those kind of things where Hoshina wants Kafka around for suspicious reasons.
I was a little bummed by this interaction. It's honestly, it's a little concerning to me. These two have zero chemistry. And I don't know if it's just because Mina hasn't been able to express a personality yet. But I am worried because very much the emotional core of this series does seem to be about Kafka eventually earning his way to being able to fight alongside her. And based off this, at least small interaction, I was like, maybe it doesn't need to. You interact with the rest of the characters. You bounce off them well.
This is the big, I want to be Hokage thing that we're supposed to be rooting for Kafka, the more kind of selfish goal that he's supposed to have in mind. I want to fight beside my old friend and stuff. And so if we're supposed to want to see him achieve that goal, then I get what you mean. It should be like when you're given hints of it, they should be really make it seem really appealing for when that happens, when he's able to actually, stand beside her on equal footing. But it's in a way, it's like, it's sort of more realistic, I guess, that the wall is still up,
It makes sense.
But
and this is also just the first time we've seen the two of them interact in a private setting. Any other time has been in front of people or things like that. So there's just
still acting the same, yeah.
And I understand. She's the superior officer. She doesn't, it's probably in that way considered inappropriate to act friendly with a lower ranking officer of any kind. But it's just one of those moments where I'm like, I would much rather see you interact with like Kikoru or Reno or fucking toilet kaiju at this point, like anybody really. So that was a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, she's just got that very proper robotic act about her. And I know that there's like the little hints that Kafka, because he means enough to her, she kind of does let that actual part of her out a little bit around him. But it is a very, very small amount.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah,
it doesn't
she
help.
Seems very like a suit.
Yeah,
so.
It doesn't help that she hasn't shown a ton of personality outside of being strong yet either. So.
No, I get what you mean. I mean, we're still early on in this series, but at the same time, the longer it goes by, it's like
a series that, by the way, has been doing ridiculously well. Like fucking ridiculous.
It's Volume 1 outsold Burn the Witches Volume 1.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Okay. Anywho, so it's late that night. Kafka has been up late studying, and he's like, all right, I should turn in or the vice captain's going to be mad at me again. But then he happens to spy someone is working out in the training room, and hey, it's Vice Captain Hoshina. And he goes in to take a look at him, and Hoshina is doing like image training with practice swords. He's moving around really quickly, slashing through the air and stuff like that. And eventually Kafka realizes, oh, he's not just like image training. He's reenacting his fight with Kaiju number 8. And just being in the presence of this guy who nearly killed him kind of makes Kafka collapse in the doorway, which draws Hoshina's attention. And, they greet each other. And then Hoshina's like, yeah, I'm practicing my moves against number 8. So that the next time I run into it, I'll be fit to slice that sucker up in one go. And he's, kind of really down on himself. He's like, I shouldn't have, held back to gauge its abilities. I should have just gone for it from the get-go, sent its head flying. And at the end there, if I'd used skill number 6 instead of number 5, I would have killed its core and all. And Kafka's like, oh, don't try and kill me. He's freaking out right there. And Hoshina, like, in an aside, is like, you're sure freaking out about me waving these practice swords around. Are you okay? So he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
But he also says no ordinary officer could handle that thing. And I'm guessing that number 9 is just as powerful. I've got to get rid of him. And Kafka, seeing Hoshina be this serious for once, realizes, yeah, he's not just trying to protect humanity. He's also doing his best to protect us, his fellow officers that depend on him. And so he says, Vice Captain, Mina told me that you have faith in me. And he salutes and says, I'll do my best to provide vital support to the force. Small pause. And Hoshina puts him in a rear naked chokehold. And he says, why are you trying to talk so big when you can't, pull out any of your freaking suit's power? But then he, releases him and says, I will say, though, I do have faith in at least 1% of you. And then he is going to go back to the Bureau building. They're going to go to bed. And we cut outside, up into the sky. Way up into the sky, 8,000 meters above Tachikawa base, where another humanoid kaiju is riding around on this big dragon bat-looking kaiju, one of seemingly dozens of its like. And it simply says, begin descent. And that's the end of the chapter.
It is very interesting to me that, because at first I was like, oh, okay, Kaiju number 9's back. And then I looked at it again. I was like, that's not Kaiju number 9. That is definitely a different Kaiju. So it's interesting we're getting another humanoid Kaiju here that I would presume is also sinister. So, and it's a pretty dope looking one. I don't really know what's about to happen here. I guess an attack on the base kind of like fight or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, this is definitely a very interesting development. I mean, yeah, time did pass, so Reno and Iharu were out of the hospital, right?
Yes.
Because they were at the big party. Yep. So, all right. So yeah, everyone will be there. Interesting.
Yeah. The chapter in terms of like building character and stuff like that, it's all right. I mean, there's a couple of cool things. I do like that, Hoshina is being developed in this way. As he's becoming a more and more important character to the cast. But the big thing for me is just the way that we end on that big cliffhanger. It's a really cool cliffhanger.
Yeah.
All right. Spy Family. Mission 40. It's a Bond chapter, Chris.
Oh boy.
That dog wants some food. But he is disturbed when he has a vision with his precognitive powers and nothing comes to him. It's just like a kind of a staticky black screen, which confuses the poor pupper.
I have been very disturbed by a future in which I am non-existent. The fragility of life very apparent to me right now. I'm now going to eat this nail off the floor.
It was not a tasty nail. Maybe this one will be tastier.
Perhaps if I eat 7 or 8 of them.
Well, that did not agree with mine tummy, but maybe if I eat the excrement that came out, it will taste better.
I appear to have vomited it all over the carpet, but perhaps my bile is the true sauce that will make this a delicious treat for me to remember.
I have a bow tie. So, Bond kind of imagines the possibilities, like, oh, maybe I'm playing hide and seek with Anya, and or maybe the power goes out, or maybe I'll get blindfolded and offered to surprise, like very silly things. But then he imagines being caught by the scientist from the lab that he was brought up in, and he dies, and that's why he's got a blank screen. So he kind of panics and looks around the room, looks at a portrait and some portraits of him surrounded by his loving family, and he imagines how they'll react when he dies, and he just kind of like trudges around, and then he goes to Anya's room, and he tries to like, say goodbye to her, and Anya's like, I'm doing homework and I don't have time to play. So, poor boy, he walks off and runs into Yor, and Yor's like, oh, we're out of dog food, and I didn't buy any more. Sorry. Lloyd said he'd be coming home late, so I guess I'll have to try making your dinner out of what we have here. I'll give it my best shot. And suddenly, Bond has a moment of clarity over the staticky future vision of Yor with her terrible cooking trying to feed him and killing him. And this comes up about 5 times through the rest of this chapter. I think I'm officially sick of the Yor can't cook joke.
It's kind of a stock. Yeah, it's a very stock joke in manga and everything like that. Particularly because the joke is usually that someone is so bad at cooking it'll be actively painful to the body or dangerous to consume it. It's like it's very rarely how someone who's bad at cooking is. It'll just suck or just won't come together. Like it feels.
Or it'll be burned.
Yeah, you know.
It won't take on suddenly toxic properties. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because she is an assassin and it's like her skill as an assassin coming through. I don't know. So he imagines like, okay, well, what if she offers it to me and I just refuse it? But then a thought comes to him of Anya saying, if you make Mama mad, she'll murderize you. And so he gets this vision of like him lying dead while Anya cries over him, and you're saying he wouldn't try the dinner I made after she's like slashed his belly open. So he decides he can't do that. So he comes to the conclusion that he needs Lloyd to come home and make dinner instead so that he can survive. And he has this very weird interpretation of what Lloyd does during his days outside, which is essentially he's like a hunter-gatherer from humanity's ancient past, but he's still in his 3-piece suit. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. So he's like, if I help out Lloyd with the hunt, then he'll come home early and then he can make food and then I won't starve to death. Hooray.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's how a dog would think.
Sure. So we get a few pages of Bond running around. He keeps on also throughout the chapter coming across opportunities to eat food, but he imagines you are getting mad at him if he eats food that he finds, so he can't do that either. He, dodges traffic, gets harassed by some kids, eventually seemingly is about to give up, but kind of like gathers himself and keeps running around. Winds up for some reason on the clock tower roof of a building overlooking everything. I don't know how he got up there. He's a resourceful doggy. And eventually he finally catches Lloyd's scent. Lloyd is on a mission, of course. He has been sent to retrieve a sample of Gyrulimus, which is a truth serum being developed by Born Industries. So he's been sent in. He can't just go in disguise there. He has to basically cat burglar it, infiltrate that way. As he's about to make his way into the building, Bond finds him. And so Lloyd is like trying to shush him, and he's like, are you out on a walk? Why are you here? And eventually, as Bond is trying to communicate with him and say, like, come feed me, I'm hungry, Lloyd is like, oh, you want to play? No, wait. Wait, are you trying to guide me to a route free of people? I don't recall training him to do that. Wait, now that I think about it, Born Industries was rumored to be involved with Project Apple. Do you know that somehow? Is that why you're here, boy? You want payback against the scientists who abused you and your friends as test subjects? Okay, lassie, let's do it. And just decides to bring the dog on the mission. So they infiltrate the building. They make their way into the lab. And as Lloyd is rummaging around and he's trying to get into one of the specimen lockers to get the truth serum, Bond has a vision of the scientists coming back into the room while Lloyd is rummaging around. And as a result of that, him having to, fight against them while Bond escapes. And as a result of that, Lloyd can't get home early to make food, so he'll have to eat yours cooking, blah, blah, blah. So Bond instead grabs Lloyd by the shirt to lead him away. They hide, and Lloyd leaves a note on one of the lockers that says, I have stolen Gyrulimus. And so the staff are like, what the hell? And they open up the locker in order to check on it. And it was a trick in order for them to open up the locker so that Lloyd could know where to look. He and Bond spring out of hiding. Bond has his own ski mask, which will be very helpful for a dog, I'm sure.
But the dog goes skiing.
Yes. They beat up the staff, including Bond doing a very impressive drop kick. Uh, so Bond's like, all right, there's my sample. Mission's complete. I can make it home early. And so Bond's vision suddenly comes into focus of Lloyd and Yor and Anya looking down on him after he has eaten. Lloyd's cooking. Hooray. And so he celebrates in happiness right while they're in the lab. And Lloyd's like, oh, you must be really happy to have gotten payback at Bourne Industries. Let's go to the market on the way back. I'll cook you something special. Hooray.
Worf.
Worf.
Nick, I didn't care for this chapter.
You didn't care for the dog chapter?
No. In fact, I would go as far as to say I hated it. I don't much enjoy a chapter where the core premise of it is the dog thinks that it's going to die, and it spends the whole chapter trying to fight against what seems like an inevitable fate. Wasn't a fan of that. Didn't like that bit one bit. Fucking despised it. They could have taken the same premise and not had the dog worry about his life the entire time, and I think it could have been just fine. But instead, you did that. Not a fan of it. By the way, the leading implication in the chapter is still that if he hadn't gone out, he was going to die. Like, there's
that's
not...
where it all comes into focus at the end. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the implication, is that, yes, Bond changed his own fate, which was death, by doing all of this. And he was, in fact, correct that he was going to die.
Like, you could possibly say it looks like they turned off the lights when they were inside that place, so maybe what he was seeing is a few... But he had to, like, actively go out of his way to do... Like, I don't know. Like, the implication feels like it was... Oh, that dog was going to die that day. And I'm just like, I don't need that. I don't really need chapters about dogs dying. In fact, the less I think about dogs dying would be great.
I didn't really care for it for different reasons. I just thought that, the primary...
You were like, the dog doesn't die in the chapter, and I hated it.
I like Bond.
Yeah.
You shut up. But, like, I don't know. It just seemed like the jokes surrounding him were not funny. It's not that I was, angry about the concept of the dog dying. It's just like him freaking out over that is just not really funny to me, or it was not done in a way that was very funny to me. So it's unfortunate because, this is the first time that Bond's gotten any focus in a while, and we really liked him when he first showed up. And, didn't really care for this much.
Yep, that's fair. Not every one of them is going to be a winner. Talking about chapters that are winners, though, Nick, let's move on to Eden Zero, chapter 127, The Doomsday System. So we open, Chris is outside, Clean is inside the medical room, and things don't look great. She's apparently getting worse, and all of Sister's, like, healing Colto, whatever the fucking Star Wars thing is. She's like, look, our magic's vibranium. We can't pump enough vibranium into her to solve all of her problems. I'm going to have to go inside. So she basically says, yeah, I'm going to go, like, memory dive into her and I guess try to root out the cause of this issue. We cut back to the satellite where evil Dr. Scientist basically continues his big evil monologue about how he's like, yeah, I tortured them because their family were patrons of mine until they found out what I was doing. And then I killed them and I kidnapped their children so I could torture them forever. Why? Because revenge, and fuck them. That's why. Everyone's
Pretty
like,
much.
All right. So
because
then,
I'm evil.
Yeah. So then Sister sees the scene that we saw before of like a young Clean that has to be, is being forced to watch as this goofy scientist cuts up her brother with a fucking chainsaw. It's so cartoonish and stupid.
I don't just love if it cut back to Chris at that moment and he just went, yeah, that really hurt.
He's like, I remember the chainsaw. I don't remember it being used against me. That's a detail I guess I blocked out. So Arsenal punches him. They get a fight. Oh, you can't beat him because OTEC is too strong or something like that. And Doctor's like, I've activated the Doomsday System. So the planet's going to explode, but it'll shoot a bunch of beams. Xeno tells Shiki to get off the planet. because bad things are going to happen. So they got to get out of here because plants like explode and some shit. Evil doctor's just like, yes, I will. I've done it. Forrester would explode now. Hermit's like, I'll start hacking you. And he's like, nope, doesn't work. And then Arsenal cuts him in half, and he's just like, tee-hee, that didn't work either. And he blows up most of Arsenal's suit. So it's like, uh-oh. It looks like Dr. Evil Face is too tough. But then a drop of water gets on some of his circuitry and it electrocutes him. And he's like, my only weakness! The same weakness all electronics have! And it's Laguna who's shown up. And Weiss is like, I don't need your help, all right? Laguna's like, it kind of looks like you did. And he basically just makes like kind of like a river of water that pulls Weiss over. And I wasn't sure what he did at first until I had to go back and check. Weiss puts his hand on Doctor's chest and then uses his ether gear to basically just explode his chest from the inside. So I don't know. The Doctor's dead. Who knows? Probably not. I'm sure we'll get another scene of him later. Hermit seems to have very quickly gotten over the trauma of seeing this guy. And
she thinks Weiss is hot. Like, clearly.
Arsenal, so. Yeah, Weiss gives a whole line about, like, sorry, but Arsenal is a champion of justice. But out of the suit, and Hermit finishes, says, very cool. I'm like, all right, sure.
Guys, if you want to impress your hot robot waifu, what you really gotta do is just straight up murder a crazy doctor.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it probably could have been. And again, we talked about it. We liked that the first thing Weiss did when he saw this doctor and, you know, the pain that it you know, the trauma it seemed to inflict on Hermit was he immediately came to her aid and tried to, you know, fight back. That was great. It's just a weird thing to then end that scene with Hermit kind of being like, oh, you're very cool. And maybe there isn't meant to be any like romantic implications or anything like that, just like a compliment, but it is still very odd to end the scene with her being like, thanks for solving that snare. You were very cool for doing it. It's just like,
yeah, if that's not supposed to be the implication, then hero, draw a different face on her. You're a talented artist. You can do that. All right. Let's move on to Magu-chan, God of Destruction.
Is it Magu-chan? Would it be Elusive Samurai?
It's the Elusive Samurai.
Oh, Nick, come on. We don't do that. Articles don't count for the title.
Fine. Let me switch them around.
No, let's do it how Nick wants.
Make up your mind.
Never.
Well, I already switched the order of them around. So the Elusive Samurai, Chapter 1.
Hold on, I closed it. Never.
Why did you close it?
Go ahead.
Chapter 1, The Slaughter of 1333. It's a new manga running in Shonen Jump. So as usual on Weekly Manga Recap, we're going to read the first few chapters and then decide whether or not we're going to keep it. And Chris is menacing me right now by patting the Veto in the Bank briefcase behind him. Mm-hmm. This is a series by Yusei Matsui, the author of Majintate no Gamineru and of Assassination Classroom. So,
two very successful series.
So, yes, two very successful series, and also two very... I'm not sure what the exact adjective I want to use is, but grimmer, I guess, than usual Shonen Jump series. So, when the turn happens in this chapter, I wasn't as surprised as I would have been if anyone else were writing this.
It was sort of like an anti-twist, because for the longest time I was like, when is this going to make sense? And then when like the creepy seer dude shows up, I'm like, finally, now it all comes together. Like I was just waiting for that character to show up and tie everything together.
So we get this really long introduction that essentially amounts to establishing the world, the way the world works, what is expected of samurai in this world, and how our protagonist fits into what is supposed to happen. So our protagonist is this young, like preteen kid Hojo Tokiyuki, who is the son of Hojo Takatoki, the regent of the Kamakura shogunate, who is a very sharp-minded and not at all constantly drugged and drunk guy who's being manipulated by his advisors. Nope, that's not what's going on at all. Anyway, so Tokiyuki is supposed to be like the heir to the shogunate, the heir to the throne, and meanwhile, he seems to get along well with the big hero of the shogunate, this samurai hero Ashikaga Takaoji, the foremost character at the start of the Nanbakucho period of Japanese history. He is a real historical figure. But he's not the hero. Our hero is this little kid who is very skilled at running away. And we see this when he's found by some vassals and they're like, we've got to teach you some art. We've got, archery lessons for you. You're late for your lessons. And he runs away from them and he actually gets away, which is very impressive for short kids, because their legs are shorter. So how do you run that fast? But so he kind of runs away from his responsibilities. He also is running away from this girl who is clearly into him, and she's, talking about like, oh, you're going to be my future husband and stuff. And people are talking about him like, I'm kind of worried about that guy. I mean, he's supposed to be the successor to the shogunate, but, when he does rise to that position, he's just going to be a puppet, the way that his father is. His advisors hold the true power. And Kyoko, the girl who's into him, says, well, I don't really care if he's a puppet. I'll still live in luxury. He may be talentless and weak-willed, but he's kind. And that's good enough for me. And she's like, gets money in her eyes. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess you two get along all right, I guess. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to get used to you being around and being kind of bratty. Yep. We also see that there's this kind of thing where, like, he tries to keep running away, and the hero, Takaoji, is able to catch him. So, foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's a touch.
And we get some more just like narration introducing who this kid is, Tokiyuki, and they're saying like, he's not really brought up in history books, but he's important to this story, so get used to him. As he's running around, we see that there are two people watching him from like some shrubs. This young girl and this kind of priest-looking tall guy. And as the priest looks at him, he sees this kind of spirit coming up out of Tokiyuki of, I don't know, it's like a serpent almost, but you don't see the serpent. You just see like a trail of feathers coming off of it.
I was gonna say,
it's almost like
it looked like the plumage almost of like a peacock.
Yeah, but it's like the plumage is not on anything, which is interesting. It's just kind of there.
It is in like the not in that scene, but it's at the end of the manga, I think, and it's also in the 2-page color spread that introduces it. I'm not sure exactly what it's meant to represent, but it is very colorful.
More and more narration building up. The Tokiyuki is lazy and cowardly and stuff like that.
Hey, you're here.
Yeah, all right, good kid. But he thinks to himself, he's just hanging on a tree like, I don't really care about all this stuff. I like this place, Kawakura. I like that the people here are happy. And I don't need like status or honor. Just living here is enough for me. And as long as loyal warriors like Takaoji Dono are around, the shogunate will remain untroubled. Hooray! The girl who was watching him before now approaches him, and she speaks very bluntly to him to say like, you're not lazy. You're not cowardly. Those are merely aspects of the monster asleep within you. At least that's what Father says. And she points behind him, and the priest dude has snuck into the tree right next to him. And, yeah, he's a weirdo. He's very enthusiastic, let's just say that. And he claims that, like, he's got... This guy is Yorishige, who is clearly going to be a very important character as, like, this advisor character. And he... very quickly establishes like all of his gimmicks and stuff like that throughout this. This is clearly going to be, it's interesting because seems to be the way that Matsui kind of does characters. Like there is a pretty normal point of view character, and then there's the tall weirdo character who gets put in the more prominent roles. So Neru, Koro Sensei, and now this guy. So anyway, he establishes like oh, I can read futures and stuff like that, but it's always really vague, and so like he says a lot of sentences with like words blurbed out, so it's only like the filler parts of the description are what are left, so he doesn't actually say anything that's going to happen to Tokiyuki, who gets more and more pissed off by his presence. But he says, there is one thing that I saw clearly, which is in comedy duos, there's a straight man and a funny man, and you're more of a straight man. In other words, I'm the comic relief. Heyo.
Heyo.
He also says, I saw the future 2 years from now. When you are 10 years old, you will be a hero who shakes heaven. As a lord of war, some will fear you and others revere you. Thus you shall alter the destiny of Japan. That is all I know. And like he's like winding down, and he looks up and sees that Tokiyuki has run away from him, because that's what he does. So Tokiyuki runs away, but he is left to think about what this priest has just told him. And so he's like, he called me a hero, and he looked really serious when he said that. So that's unusual. We then are introduced to Tokiyuki's half brother, Kunitoki, who is older than him, but was he was born from one of his father's concubines, so he's not in line for the throne. And so he's, lying back and saying like, yeah, like I actually do kind of believe some of the things that guy was telling you, because, you're good at running away, but you're also like good at evasion, and that's a good skill. So I think in certain circumstances, yeah, you could be a hero. Anyway, he's dead now. It like immediately cut to his head falling to the ground after he's been beheaded. So he's killed. His father is stabbed.
Well, his father kills himself, right? He does the traditional.
He commits seppuku. Yeah. All of the guards are killed. Kyoko, that girl who was wanting to, hook up with Tokiyuki, she was raped and killed. Very unnecessary. And as we're starting to see more and more like shots of like, people in the army who are loyal to the shogun getting cut down, arrows shot through their heads, we get narration saying, for the boy to become a hero, he had to lose everything. And who is responsible for all of this? Why, it's the hero that they relied upon so much, Takauji Ashikaga, who stands on a pile of bodies inside a burning building with his head thrown back as he says, who will raise me to be ruler than all? Whose voice is that I hear? So a lot of stuff happens where he is quickly destroying all the shogunate's forces, and he even sent his 3-year-old son to a military commander, and the boy commanded in his name, which, good job, kid, I guess.
Good on ya.
And so 24 days after Takauji rebelled against the shogunate, basically, everyone is dead, laid in ruins. Except, of course, for Takahito, who is left to bear witness to all this destruction and death. And at that moment, the priest appears to him again, along with his daughter, and says, at the end, your father said he could not bear the thought of you dying, so he commanded me to help you escape. I will shelter you in my territory of Suwa in Shinano. And so, of course, Tokiyuki's like, why are you here? And Yorishige says, my divine sight showed me this possibility, so I prepared for the worst. And he's like, yeah, I have followers and a mount nearby. Let's go. And Toki's like, the honorable thing for me to do is just to die here. I should cut open my stomach like my father did. And so the priest says, "Do you know what will happen to Japan if you do that?" And Tokiyuki's like, "Well, why don't you tell me?" And Yorishige does his very vague fortune telling again, and Tokiyuki's like, "Why are you? This is not appropriate for this situation. My dad's dead." As they ride away, Tokiyuki just sees even more of the destruction. There is really grim stuff throughout this. Heads on stakes, people burning and stuff. It's really grotesque. But again, because of who wrote this, not all that surprising.
Yeah.
So Tokiyuki is left to just kind of contemplate all this stuff that is happening, and he doesn't really trust Yoshishige yet. And so he's like, "Look, I'm not going to trust myself to you. You're a fraudulent shaman." And his daughter, Yoshige's daughter, kind of backs this up, saying like, "Yeah, you are kind of a fraud, Dad." So, yeah. But Tokiyuki says, "We can't avenge my father. Look at all this. It took Minamoto Yoritomo 5 years to defeat the Heiki clan, but Takauji laid waste to the whole country in just 24 days. And the other day you were telling me that I was going to become a hero, but future generations only apply that word to someone strong like Takauji. It's a disgrace for the defeated not to die, so I should die like a warrior along with everyone else." Yoshige's like, "Okay then," and pushes him off a cliff.
That's a pretty dope movie. He's like, "Hey, here you go, boom."
So he lands amongst a bunch of Takauji's soldiers, and Yoshige is like, "That's the Hojo boy. You're supposed to be hunting him down and killing him." And in that moment, instead of letting himself, be killed, Tokiyuki reacts, and he reaches out and catches himself on like the blunt ends of people's blades, and he starts kicking and jumping off of people's faces and running to safety again. And Yoshihige witnesses all this, and he sees the aura around him come into full focus as almost like this phoenix surrounding his body. And he says, "In the depths of despair and thrust into the abyss of death, that is the place within you where a hero shines." So Tokiyuki gets back up onto the cliff, latches onto Yoshihige and says, "Hey, I could have died." But Yoshihige says, "Well, you said you wanted to die, but then you saved your skin." That's the hero inside of you. Running and hiding are part of what makes a hero. Your survival instinct is monstrous, and you have an unmatched talent for staying alive. You thrill at walking the line between life and death. So Takauji may have slain many people, but you will vex him, because next he must kill the rightful heir to the Kamakura shogunate, and you excel at escaping death. Takauji killed to become a hero. You will live to become a hero. So, cool stuff. And then we just kind of like get this implication, like, by the way, you're not going to do this on your own. There are other characters that will appear. They will help you. Look at these flashes of these interesting characters who are going to ally with you. But he concludes by saying, as long as you draw breath, Takauji will come seeking your demise. Until then, run and hide, grow strong, so you may vanquish the demon pursuing you. Now the fate of Japan hangs on a game of hide from the demon. So he wants to know why the priest is doing all this. And he's like, what do you get out of all this? And he says, "Oh, loyalty to the Hojo clan. But, I mean, you're probably not going to believe me. So I'll explain someday, but only once you've reclaimed Kamakura." So he says in response, "I'm shameless. My family is dead. I should have died with them. But thanks to you, I've awakened to the joy of life. I'll hold you to your word." And so this begins our tale as our little team of people ride off on horseback to safety, and we get narration closing this out, saying, "This thus began the tumultuous life of the elusive samurai prince." So I will say this. I am intrigued. I'm not 100% sold yet. It's an interesting place to start from, but I haven't gotten hooked into it yet. I guess we'll see where this goes in the next couple of weeks.
I liked a lot about this. I really it's an odd thing because I don't like historical stuff at all. Like I've probably read enough manga on it and played enough games on it, I still couldn't explain to you even the basis level what the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is. I don't know. There's fighting, I think. And sometimes they turn them into Pokemon or something. I think in Conquest that might have been Japan. I don't know. I'm not gonna be able to like acknowledge all of it or appreciate. I know this is based off of some real historical stuff. I don't have any interest in looking it up or anything like that, to be frank. But I still enjoy it. One, it is something different. We have had quite a few veterans of Jump come back into the magazine, and sometimes their stuff's overcomplicated, or like we're seeing with the current series running now, it's too much of the old. I don't know if this will be a success either, but I do appreciate that this is very much nothing at all like Naru or Assassination Classroom. This feels very different. The art in it is phenomenal. There are like 2 or 3 different points where I found myself just staring back like, holy shit, I forgot how good Matsui or Butsui or is Matsui?
I believe it is Matsui.
Matsui. How good of an artist they are. It's phenomenal. And also some pretty good writing too. I don't know why, but I like the line of like, yeah, his name was Hojo. He may have been in the history books, but everyone forgets his name after the test. And I was like, shit.
It's a great little line.
That's a real good way to burn somebody who's historical. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought there was some really cool stuff going on in here. I do like that. Hey, I'm reading everything as a Jump. It'll be nice to have something that has just a different flavor than everything else.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I totally understand where you're coming from though. This is definitely a wait and see kind of series, because as of this point, I have no idea what to expect from the next chapter even. So there's a little bit of like a hesitation of like, this could just suck. I don't know. Or this could just be too weird to catch on, and like not weird in the same way Assassination Classroom was. Just like, I don't know, is there enough people who are really interested in a historical fiction kind of thing? Like, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that, it did a really good job of conveying the themes to which it's going to adhere. This idea of like, this guy is a hero by doing things that seem unheroic, as in running away. But it also reminds me a lot of Yona of the Red Dawn, because that series opens with our main character, her father being killed in a rebellion, and she has to run away and find allies and stuff like that. It seems like we're getting a similar premise to start with. But it seems like it's also going to be a tonally very different series from that. I get the impression that our main hero is not going to have hot boys fighting over him. But maybe he will.
Maybe. I started laughing there because I was like, oh, Yona the Red Dot, I should read that. And I was like, we did.
We did.
I was like, no, that makes sense. I was like, no, what I'm thinking of was that one fucking Snow White with the red hair or some shit like that. And I was like, no, we read that too. I just kept thinking, I was like, maybe I'm mixing up with something else. And I was like, no.
Just go through every single weekly manga recap recommendation. Maybe I'm thinking of Onani Master Kurosawa. No, wait.
I'm thinking of It's Not My Fault I'm Not Popular Yet. No, we read that one too.
You're just like staring off into space for like 20 minutes.
Nick, which Higurashi did we read? All of them. Shit!
Oh, man. So this was definitely a very interesting first chapter, and I feel more optimistic about this probably than like anything we've gotten in the last couple of rotations of new series.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, will I want to keep up with this every week? I don't know yet, because we've gotten a really interesting opening chapter. But in terms of like what it'll be like reading it week to week, that remains to be seen. So.
Yes. I will say this though, I am much more excited about this current crop of a series coming in for 2 reasons. One, it looks like there's a bunch of different kind of series in there. There's a sports series eventually. It's baseball, but I'll fucking take it at this point. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited because it's getting rid of fucking garbage. Just
Our Blood Oath.
Mori King's gone. A Gravity Boys is gone.
All of the series that are like of the same ilk too, which is just dumb comedy.
Yeah, or just bad, dude.
Even if like these were all like funny things, like there's too many comedy manga in Jump right now. Yeah. There just is, like,
dude. Our Blood
Oath is not a comedy, but it might as well, because who gives a shit?
Our Blood Oath got the most brutal of cancellations, where it was right in the middle of a story arc that didn't even really, like, it was kind of like, it's about 2 other characters, but it's really about you guys. And they solved that, and then the 2 main characters had to be like, and we'll be friends forever. The end shows up like there was no natural conclusion. I was like, oh, that's the cancellation that really hurts. They didn't. That's like on like you had to submit the manuscript by Tuesday, and like Monday afternoon there's like a knock at your door, like, yeah, this is the last chapter. You were going to wrap that up, right? Like, what? No.
Oh man. It's not like, I mean, like, it seems like everyone should be told when they're in Shonen Jump, like, by the way, be prepared to end your series at chapter 18. Like, that seems like it should just be, like, something that you're told once you start publication. Whatever. Magu-chan, God of Destruction, chapter 28, Lucky Beans and Demons. It's an Izuma chapter of Magu-chan. Izuma, the character that is the most important and super interesting and everyone loves. It's the Holy Knight guy. He's out in the wilderness somewhere. I don't know. He found a bunch of rocks to chop up. So, good job. He's upset. It's still the beginning of the year. So Magu and Ruru are running around, and Ruru is like laying down like stuff to cast out, demons and draw in happiness, because it's Setsubun. Look, I don't understand this Japanese custom. They're doing a Japanese custom that I don't understand. So they're casting around like rice, I believe. That would make sense, right? Or salt? Salt, I think, is what you cast down to expel demons. Anyway. No, she's throwing down beans. Magu's throwing beans.
I
don't know. Magu opens up some of his beans and he's like, I will spread these around. But he's going to spread around natto instead. And Ruru's like, that'll be really annoying to clean up, though. Meanwhile, at the same time, Izuma has just come to Ruru's house in order to challenge Magu to a duel. But Izuma's like, no, Inaris, I have not come to fight him this time. I need to know what he's planning. I must know what his true intentions are. So he throws open the door and is like, come out, Minuku, I have a bone to pick with you. And Magu is doing, like the throwing food around thing to cast out the spirits. And he throws the natto right in Izuma's face. Izuma is so shocked by this brutal assault that he kind of collapses to the ground for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just because he's a very dramatic guy. He takes offense to this, draws out his sword, and wants to fight Magu. Ruru puts a stop to it because, she's like, don't fight in my house. Izuma and Magu point at each other like little kids who have gotten into a spat, like, he started it. So Ruru's like, look, if you're going to fight, do it where no one gets hurt. And then she's like, wait, I've got an idea. We'll make it a Setsubun showdown. So they go out to the beach, and Ruru says, it's the Setsubun showdown. Whoever manages to hit their opponent's mask with a bean first wins. And both Magu and Izuma now have, Oni masks clasped to the side of their heads. And so Izuma's like, so these beans have been given a divine blessing of good fortune, and this is a means of defeating evil in this country. Ren is there for some reason, and he says, we don't have a custom like that.
So look, I'm not going to bury the lead. This is not a very good chapter. That is the one really good joke in the chapter, though, where Magu-chan just makes up a wild thing of a wild tradition. He's just like, no, we don't have that.
know why Ren is there at all. Was he hanging? He was hanging around the house, I guess. I don't know why he was hanging around the house. Well, I do know why he was hanging around the house, because he's Ren. Anyway, so they're gonna throw beans at each other. Izuma infuses some of his magic into the beans that he throws. They go into Magu's body and explode into a lightning bolt explosion thing. And Izuma gives a really, really, really long and complex explanation about what he did with his power. And Ren just goes, "Your explanation's too long."
Yep. It's pretty funny, though.
Magu, however, is unaffected after the smoke clears. And then Izuma realizes, wait, you consumed them? Because he ate the beans, because he's Magu-chan. Anyway. More lightning beans get thrown at him. Oneris is videotaping everything. And she's like, yeah, he wanted this fight, so I'm not going to stop the fight. Izuma is having a big crisis of conscience right now, because he's like, the wicked gods were sealed away by my ancestors, and I got stronger not just to seal away beings who threatened humanity, but to do away with them. But the most supreme being of all, Magu-chan, the god of destruction, won't even pay attention to me. So what am I even doing here? So he's all, why? Heroic blue screen of death, blah, blah, blah. Ruru, while observing this, says, I think Magu-chan and Izuma are very similar. I wonder if they can't grow closer through their fighting. And Ren's like, a god of destruction and kid named with a warped sense of reality named Izuma. I guess they're both misfits in this world. Okay. Izuma eats all of the beans that, Magu eats all the beans that Izuma throws at him. And he says, I am sure you have realized it now. Without sealing gems, no lowly human is a match for me, let alone one with disillusioned and crude magic. So Izuma grimaces and says, I have one request, God of Destruction Magu-chan. Unleash your powers of destruction on me. Fight me for real. And Magu's like, okay, you said it. So Izuma is thinking like, fighting is all I can do. The holy knights and wicked gods, good and evil, happiness and demons, I'm done thinking. As a single knight, I will challenge you. Face me. And he draws his sword and they're going to clash and boom, explosion. And Izuma loses. He gets knocked to the ground. He's not actually hurt, of course. And he says, when Maga comes over to him, why did you go easy on me? Aren't you a wicked god who presides over destruction? Magu says, God of destruction, wicked god. I do not remember ever calling myself those. Lowly humans only call me that out of fear. It will be easy for me to erase your existence, but my disciple wishes that I do not harm you. So Izuma comes to a quote-unquote realization that he shouldn't be trying to defeat the god of destruction, but change him. It wasn't Magu-chan, but that young maiden who I lost to. The police have arrived because of the explosion on the beach, and they arrest Izuma again. Also apparently Oneris. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think Oneris just goes along with it. I mean, can you really ever arrest a god?
Oneris is probably like, I get to do my prison inmate cosplay now. Cool. So.
Oh yeah, for her, it's very exciting.
The next day, we get what I think is the only funny joke in this whole chapter. When Izuma shows up in Ren's class the next day, he introduces himself. He's joining the class, but he flat out says, in my pursuit of the god of destruction, I've decided to infiltrate the school. So Ren's like, why are you at our school? I thought you'd go home. And Izuma says, no. I understand now there's no great urgency in suppressing the god of destruction, but that doesn't change that his powers are immense and dangerous. That is why I will be taking on the duty of keeping an eye on the young maiden and Magu-chan. So you help me out too, boy. And Ren's like, wait, so you're my age? And Izuma's like, oh, I'm 16. Why? And Ren's like, why aren't you in high school? I like that joke. And that's it. Izuma's somehow a student at a school he should be 2 years too old.
Look, I've been on record before. I don't particularly care for this character. So this is sort of a chapter where him getting character development makes him better. But at the same time, I'm not a huge fan. I do like small little touches. I like the moment of Magu being like, I don't remember ever calling myself a wicked god, as we kind of go through the process of recontextualizing Magu as this not benevolent, but not malevolent god of destruction. Sort of this stateless being that the morality of which is seemingly shaped by the people he associates with. So I do like that as like a resolution for that conflict. He's like, you keep calling me a wicked god, but that's not what I am. I follow the whims of my people.
Perhaps if you want to see who is truly wicked, you should look in a mirror. Behind this curtain is the most wicked creature in existence. It turns out it's man.
So I like that. But yeah, otherwise it's kind of just it's a chapter. It's fine. It has a couple like decent teehees to it or whatnot, but
it is neither the best chapter this week nor the worst.
Nope.
And there were not a lot of great manga this week, unfortunately. Now that we're halfway through them, I can say that. So.
Yeah.
Dr. Stone, Z equals
Time to
182.
get stoned!
Chapter Z equals 182, Diamond Heart. Last time, the crew that was sailing around had their stealth vehicle, and they covered it in petrification devices because it turns out they're really, really, really good at deflecting radar somehow. So they're going to, however, keep on examining the devices because they have experimentation to do. Their goal is to figure out how to reactivate them so that they can actually fight against Stanley's gang. And Senku also, tries to relate this stuff to Zeno. Is like, hey, if you help us out here, your analytical abilities would probably be really helpful to us. And Zeno's like, yeah, well, naturally, in the event that I come across a discovery that escapes your grasp, I have no intention of sharing my findings. And Senku's like, I mean, all right, but I say that sharing makes the whole process run smoother. See, sharing, Dr. Zeno, is caring. I don't know if you understood that. Oh, you don't care. Okay. So they do a lot of really tiny work, collecting tiny little scraps of samples and stuff like that. And Senku is like, okay, so inside of each of these Medusas, there's this blackened diamond, just like Joel reported to us. Smashing the samples apart leaves us with countless tiny components, but the fact that this one is identifiable is key. So thanks to Joel tinkering around with it, they now have this lead that they can examine on every single device, which is helpful. So Senku says, all right, well, there's the charred bits of the crystal, which make it hard to tell much about the structure of it, or if the refractive index is distorted, blah, blah, blah. Zeno kind of is like, starts throwing around terms that Chrome, who is nearby, is like confused by. But they note, we've opened up like 1,000 of these things eventually. Every single diamond from them shows a different blackening pattern. The patterns aren't planned or deliberate. And so are they just alterations just the result of damage? But eventually, Chrome happens to find a diamond that is not blackened at all. It looks almost perfectly new. And so they look at it and they're like, well, what if we put it in a Medusa and we get it to work? So Kahaku goes ahead and tries to activate it. She puts it in a Medusa unit and, says 1 meter, 3 seconds, throws it away from herself, and it doesn't work at all. So there's something that they're still missing. They keep on breaking open devices and examining them and stuff like that. And eventually, Zeno looks at one of the crystals and says, there are cracks, likely along the cleavage planes. So the clean diamonds have cracks in them, they note. The whole diamonds have black smudges. I assume there are probably some overlaps as well. Anyway, even the clean diamonds aren't undamaged by the process of being used up. And Zeno's like, I'm sure you would have noticed that too, Senku. I'm not trying to help you, Babaka. So they examine stuff more and more, and so Chrome's like, what the hell does all this mean? And Senku says, well, this is just a hypothesis, but if we had a diamond that was completely the correct shape, good as new, no cracks, no scratches, no black marks, we could cram it into a Medusa and power it up. So we've got to make a diamond. And everyone's shocked by this, as usual, whenever Senku says, we got to make something ridiculous. And so Senku's like, okay, here's what we got to do. And they get in contact with the group that was left behind in the kingdom. And they say, you guys have got to make this for us. You got to make this diamond. But everyone points out, like, we don't have a professional scientist here that can do that. Senku and Zeno are with you guys. But Senku says the pros don't hold any exclusive patent on science. Anyone can do it. Sinner or saint, following the same steps yields the same results. That's the whole point of science. There's a really cool little moment.
Yes.
It's like, hey, we have the methodology. If you follow the methodology, you can do it too. You can replicate the results. So he tells them, you're going to need some ingredients. Methanol. Okay. It's the only one that's named. I don't know. It seems like that's the only one. So they get some methanol from Dr. Zeno's facility, and he says, okay, you have to heat it up, and that's it. So because presumably they have participated with Senku in a lot of his experiments before, they know how to accomplish this, which is, okay, we need some like tungsten filament, and we need to do this and this in order to heat it up. The first time that they try it causes an explosion. It's okay. Only Magma was hurt, and he's fine. So some of them start to, act in dismay, like, we can't do this. Maybe we should. And Yo says, maybe we could get the enemy mechanic. You get Brody to handle this part. But Nikki says, no. Senku asked us to craft this diamond for a reason. We shouldn't let the enemy get involved in the process. Science isn't just for the eggheads. We can do this. That diamond's getting made. And so they gather themselves again, and they have a more complicated, thorough process for heating things up this time. When they hook stuff up in order to get the filament heated up, it cracks, and they think that they have failed. But when Yuzuriha examines the connection, she says there are these tiny little particles sparkling in it. It's really, really small, but it's a diamond when Joel examines it. So they've successfully made tiny bits of diamond through this process. Yeah. Hooray! That's where the chapter ends.
Diamond acquired. This is a fine chapter. I like the idea that the other side of the team has to kind of put this thing together, and they do get to it. It probably could have used like another like 2 or 3 pages, because when the second explosion happened, it was like the big like, come on guys, let's do it. I was expecting like one more try at the apple instead of them just being like, hold on, wait, let's just look. Oh wait, no, we did it. Like,
yeah, like a little bit of a weird ending. Yes.
But I still like it. It's fine. I think I'm generally more optimistic with where Dr. Stone has been in the past couple weeks. So I think if I were more bored with it, this would have been a chapter I'd have been like, who gives a shit? But as it was, I was kind of like, it's fine. Yeah.
I thought it was perfectly adequate.
There you go. All right, Nick, let's talk about Mashle Magic and Muscles, Chapter 47, Mash Burn Dead, and the Selection Exam. So last chapter, Rain revealed Ares. He used his Bankai, used black magic, and Margaret responds by summoning a music note shield, because music is his gimmick, so everything's got to be musical themed. Summons up this big shield. It is cut straight through. Like, after Rain's attack hits, there's a giant, like, chasm in the ground. After where the attack hits, there's just, like, black smoke kind of pouring out of it. And we see Mash show up, and he's like, thanks? Rain's like, for what? I was just playing with some bunnies in the forest. And he's like, oh, hey, the selection exam is soon. And I do like Mash just being like, yep. He's like, look, I've never been good at encouraging people, but I'll say this. You are embarking on a challenge the likes of which this world has ever seen. Nothing good will come of your failure. So win and give your challenge meaning. And Mash responds with a wholehearted K. And then Rain walks off and says, I've got some bunnies to take care of. Mash's like, I knew you liked bunnies. We cut over, and Margaret is alive. He also grabbed his 2 subordinates, the twins, and just says, you boys sure are sloppy. And he looks at his own bloody hand and just says, so that's a triple linder. The gigantic wand increases the baseline of his magic, so even an entry-level spell is given the sheer power of a secondeth magic. I wouldn't have mind trying out my own secondeth spell, but I had to take care of these boys. Oh, was it maternal instincts? Sort of an odd use of term there, as I know there have been people who have been a little displeased that Margaret appears to just be a queer-coded villain, which has definitely been a big problem in media to begin with.
In general.
Yeah, so a little bit of a disappointing moment there, unless that's supposed to be a clue to something bigger. But regardless, I do like the note of Margaret being like, hey, I actually had some stuff in the tank, and I was better than what you saw there. I might have actually been able to fight back from that, but I had to protect my flunkies, essentially. The two nobodies are just like, yeah, Margaret could have totally done it with the second dispel. This is all our fault. And Margaret just says, no worries. I believe in saving the best for last. We cut over, and everyone has basically been given, like, they're going through all their coins that they earned for being Lord Abel, and they're just like, cool. How about I give 3 coins to everybody? That sound good? And Finn's just like, oh God, why do I have these? I shouldn't. I can't. Lance just says soon as he looks at a picture of his little sister. Dot cannot sleep. He's too excited, so he just keeps looking over his backpack and everything again.
He's so prepared.
Yeah.
He's such a thorough, prepared boy. Like,
Lemon's a girl and wasn't invited to participate.
Well, she was the one who was kidnapped, I guess.
I know, but Finn didn't do anything.
He was there.
I just like, there's not even a line to address it.
I'm in complete agreement with you. It's like, why isn't Lemon there? That seems kind of messed up.
But then we have a scene with Mash talking to his father, and his dad's just like, I heard they discovered you can't use magic, and you're going to be charged with this crime if you don't meet their demands. And he just starts apologizing. This is my duty. If only I could have given you a normal life. If only I could have provided to you better. Perhaps I could have done more to help you pass in society. And Mash just interrupts him and says, I'm happy. I've got a pops who's always looking out for me. I was able to experience school, if even only for a little bit. I was blessed with friends. I got to eat lots of cream puffs. I'm happy. So thank you, Pops. And his dad just says, good. Now come back safe. And we're given the explanation of how the divine visionary thing generally goes. It's sort of a 3-stage thing. The first stage is acquiring coins. The second is the selection exam. And then the third is the actual divine visionary exam. So the second stage is what we're doing right now. They add the detail that, like, normally it takes 5 coins, but because of shit with Innocent Zero, it's just 3 coins this year. So that's why all of our characters get to be involved. And we're introduced to all the characters who will be, like, the fodder, essentially. And there are some fucking top choice names. More Tomato, Dolb Marks, Max Land. But my absolute favorite is one of the characters who's given their own unique panel, and that is Carpaccio Liu Yang. I was worried Mash had lost a little bit of its naming potential, but Carpaccio Liu Yang is so fucking spot on. Oh, man. So
I'm personally the most interested in Pawn Taurus. Where's his chin?
I don't know where his neck ends and his face starts. I think he might just have the biggest chin anyone's ever seen.
But like his chin actually goes down into his shirt collar.
Yeah. So yeah, basically we see a whole bunch of characters, and the 3 it looks like we're meant to kind of really take note of are Carpaccio, Lance, and Margaret. They're all there, and they all have more than the 3 coins needed to get into this. And then finally, Wahlberg starts off by kind of introducing everybody, saying, it seems that Margaret is entering here. You face a difficult road, Mash Burn Dead. And then Mash heads off into the arena. So yeah, this is a very big deal. We got some suitable build up for Margaret. It looks like there might be a showdown with Lance at some point. I don't know if this is supposed to be specifically a tournament or if this is kind of like a battle royale kind of situation. So we shall see. But there are a lot of storylines kind of going into this. So should be
It definitely seems like it's a sort of tournament setup.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me see. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it does add up okay to tournament. You'd have to do some buys, but
yeah, you know.
There could also just be people we don't see too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. I've got ear stuff going on.
No.
So
You said you were cured.
I'm not fully cured.
No.
Probably gonna have to take some ibuprofen after this. So, Ayakashi Triangle, Chapter 29, Lament of the Former King of Ayakashi. So we start off with a little conversation between Shirogane and Genraku, who has actually sketched out the strange appearance that Suzu took on when the Ayakashi medium appeared. He says that this is probably the Ayakashi medium who lies dormant within Suzu, but she immediately withdrew. So that means Suzu's probably an incomplete vessel. So he says, what does Suzu need to become complete? In addition to getting more involved with Ayakashi, I believe there is another important element, Matsuri. So I go to Suzu and Matsuri for a bit. Genraku and Shirogane are perving on them from the shadows. And Genraku says, that's is to be expected from one who presides over life. Her mind is always on eating and Matsuri. She probably loves to sleep too. Okay. But he explains she doesn't have trouble eating or sleeping, as in she can do those whenever she wants. But the situation with Matsuri won't go her way. That stress heightens her power. And Shirogane reflects on the times that Suzu has demonstrated her powers, which have been involved with Matsuri. The time that she tried to, remove his gender swap jutsu, the time that they first met Genraku and she took over the octopus thing. So, but he clarifies, see, it didn't happen in the battle against the Jinyo because she thought Matsuri was dead. Despair won't draw out this power. In order to tap into her full power, but if we are able to tap into her full power, you might be able to return to your original form. We cut over to Suzu and Matsuri again. They're hanging out with Lou and, oh god, I'm going to remember the other girl's name eventually. It's like...
Something with an S, I feel like.
Yayo.
Nope, never mind. There wasn't an S in there to begin with.
Just got to remember One Piece. Yayo. So.
Yayo.
Exactly.
Dreaming. Don't give it up, Luffy. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Zoro. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Nami. Give it up.
It was really weird when they added the other characters into the cast, but they didn't change the "don't give it up" part at all.
Nothing is better than when they added Chopper and they have
Chopper's doctoring.
Yeah, like it's like Sanji's cooking, Chopper's doctoring, and I was like, I mean, I guess doctoring can be a verb if you use it like that, but this very clearly sounds like it's not intended in the song at all.
Well, especially when it's like Zoro's like a samurai, there's no doubt. Give them all their own lines, and it's like Sanji's cooking.
Sanji cooking, Chopper doctoring. Is he doctoring, or am I just supposed to connect these two words together?
Look, when I signed up to do this rap part breakdown, I didn't know that there was gonna be more members that were gonna have the same 60 seconds. Okay.
There was a guy backstage and they hired him. They told him all the characters, so he's just like if it had kept going, it'd have been like Frankie building, Brooke skeleton. He didn't have time to figure it out. They were like, we don't know who's gonna join the Strats. There's just like 100 nonsense ones out there.
So this Laboon guy, is he joining the crew too? Laboon's a big whale.
Gaiman in a chest, not much else. Like, they gotta shove all those in there. Like, we don't know, he could be a Straw Hat.
Is Vivi a Straw Hat? For a while.
Vivi got blue hair. Not even a cool thing. She got blue hair.
And that's your One Piece discussion for this week, everybody. There was no chapter. Lou has gotten the other three to basically sit down and do a Ouija board with her, but the Ouija board is themed around Shiromatsu, the mysterious alien boy that she met a few chapters ago. So they each lay their fingers on 10 yen coin, and so instead of having the big dial, so they're going to guide around like a Ouija board. And so Lou is like, Shiramatsu, are you on Earth right now? And Matsuri kind of deliberately forces it to move over to yes. And Suzu looks over at him like, what, did you do that? And he's like, well, I mean, I guess I am Shiramatsu, so I guess I wanted to answer honestly. It's like, you didn't whatever need to do that. Um, so Lou says, you guys should ask a question of Shiramatsu. He can answer any question we have about the secrets of outer space, maybe even about multiverses or how to evolve into a higher dimension life form. So Suzu kind of looks at Matsui and is like, be sure to answer them. So Lou turns over to Yayo and is like, do you have a question? And she says, yeah, does Nidokuro like Matsuri? It's a great question to ask. Good for you. So Matsuri's like, I mean, I guess he has helped me out, but it's not like, we like each other or anything. But the 10 yen coin moves over to yes again. So Suzu's pissed off at Matsuri, like, no, did you move it because of what Ninokuru's dad said? And Matsuri's like, did Suzu move it? Could she be looking at us like we're meant to be together? But then he spots out of the corner of his eye that Shirogane is watching from the window, and he has used his powers to perform telekinesis on the coin. Because... I guess it's to cause more stress between Suzu and Matsuri.
I guess.
Anyway. So... Matsui's trying to play it off like, whatever, I don't care. So then they follow up with another question, which is just like, how compatible are Matsuri and Ninokuro? Oh, it says excellent. Maybe you should go out with him, Matsuri. And Suzu's like, urge to kill, must kill anyone who might fuck my man. So, Yayo has gotten 3 questions in a row. Let someone else have a turn, you selfish person, you. So... she says, does Matsuri want to go out with Ninokuro? And Matsuri's like, I can't let Shirogane move it over to yes. Oh, no, I don't want Suzu to think that I'm gay. Shirogane, we dive into his head as he thinks, Matsuri is planning to take the coin to no, but I won't lose. I must complicate things between Suzu and Matsuri. To draw out the Ayakashi medium's power, go to yes. This is so dumb.
I do like the dedication to this, though. He's like, I must make these teenagers have complications in their relationships. It must happen.
The coin starts to waver between the different forces going on it. Matsuri looks over at Shirogane again and is like, God, even in his weakened state, he still has this much power to move the coin. But then he notices that Shirogane is crying. And Shirogane just has this perfect moment where he goes, why am I doing this? Like, why are you so focused on moving this coin over this fake Ouija board so that Suzu will think that Matsuri wants to bang Ninokuro? What is wrong with you?
He's like,
He has the moment like, why am I doing this?
Why am I trying to get these kids to fuck? I don't... What have I become?
So he has this whole tragic backstory thing that is kind of an attempt to explain why he hates young humans wanting to bang each other. And it goes like this. The fear and belief of humans overwhelmingly increased my powers, but it was an era where the human world was experiencing rapid growth.
Ooh.
Means people were fucking a lot. My shrine deteriorated and had become a rendezvous point for couples. In order to punish the pesky couples, I shut myself away deep in the mountains to train, and finally I mastered the secret art to change genders. Gender swap awakened! But when I returned to the village, not only were the couples gone, the entire village had been flooded out by the construction of a dam. Angered, I tried to destroy the dam, and for dozens of years I fought against exorcist ninja, including Matsuri's grandfather, Seigen Kazumaki. But it all seemed so ridiculous, I decided to stop getting involved with humans. Time passed, and now here I am, facing off against Seigen's grandchild, who I turned into a girl with gender swap awakened, over a 10 yen coin!
The idea,
well, when you put it that way.
The idea that his entire, like, he's like, it's not just that he's like, oh, what have I become? He's like, I fucking left and went on a training arc because I was so tired of horny people not fucking paying me my due respect. And the entire time, I was too fucking dumb to ever realize that there are non-hetero relationships in the world. It never crossed my mind.
Like, I understand the specific point of, like, there was a lot of heterosexual banging going on because people were making babies. Thus, I made a gender swap awaken jutsu to fuck with hetero couples so that they couldn't fuck to have babies. I'm with you there. But your anger doesn't seem to be over specifically baby-making sex. Because I've got a secret for you. If they're sneaking off into your temple to have privacy to bang, they're not doing it usually with the express intent of trying to have children. That tends to be what boring couples do if they are banging specifically to have kids. They do it in the safety of their own homes where they can just raise a child because no one will care if they sneak off to bang in their own house. So what you really were doing was being upset about the pervy people and the people who aren't capable of having children or don't care about it, i.e. don't necessarily need to be heterosexual. But also, they moved in and made a dam and wrecked your temple. So shouldn't the real source of your woe and the target of your anger and resentment be industrialization and not banging?
He's like, yeah, but I can't turn a dam into a chick. That doesn't work. And it's like, Shirogane.
This jutsu, I might as well use it.
Shirogane, have you considered the solution to your problem might be not turning people into chicks? What are you talking about? Explain.
So he remembers this and gathers his resolve, and in order to get the edge over Matsui, he decides to deploy Ayakashi Jutsu Shirogane Hairball, which is just firing a big puff of hair from his tummy into Matsui's face. Matsui gets pissed off and fires wind jutsu at him and blows him away, so you shouldn't have tried to do that. Matsui falls over as a result of this, and that draws the weirdness to a close for today. Genraku has a kind of cool surveillance system set up where he has like a rabbit he's drawn holding a camera he's drawn, which projects a visual to a TV screen he has drawn. It's like, that's nifty. I like that. Anyway, Shirogane is humiliated and lying in the bushes, and Genraku's like, hey, I know you can do it. After all, you've already greatly complicated their relationship by casting Gender Swap Awakened. Keep frustrating Suzu to draw the Ayakashi medium from within. And so, Shirogane is like, what are you actually trying to do? And Genraku says, I told you, I want to draw the complete Ayakashi medium. But Shirogane says, well then why didn't you help when she was attacked by the Jinyo? Because you knew about that while it was going on. And he explains, I was nearby, but it's Matsui's role to save her. It's not my place to meddle, especially if she's forgotten about me. And then the chapter ends with Yayo and Lu trying to push Ninokuru and Matsuri into a meet-cute so that they hook up because they are teenagers with lots of time on their hands. Yeah. So there you go.
It's very silly, but I guess in the same way, I kind of like, I don't know. There's just something so funny about Shirogane. Like, and I know it's kind of treated as a dramatic moment, but it's just so fucking funny that he has the moment of realization. He's like, why the fuck do I care so much about getting these stupid kids into a complicated relationship? I am a demon god, and I am sitting here fucking with a Ouija board, basically, to try to complicate things. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I think that at the very least, the series has followed through finally on Shirogane is kind of an idiot, isn't he?
Yeah. All right, Nick. Let's rack things up here with Black Clover, page 279. The Door to Hell. So we opened the chapter of Mary Leona. She's burned the demon up. She's like, haha, you're all burned. You're dead. When all the other characters, including the guy who's voiced by a boy band, shows up to be like, we're here too. I don't know what we're here for. I guess just to talk about how cool Yuno is. Because that's all they do in this scene is be like, Yuno's pretty dope. So we cut over to all the various different fights that have happened and how all the members of the Dark Triad are definitely dead. They are dead, Nick. Super dead. All of them have been defeated. When Jack the Ripper, the great hero, is like, hey, shut up, Dante. Stop laughing. I'm going to kill you.
You're dead. You're dead. You're very dead. Right. I don't need to kill you anymore. You're dead.
Yeah. When suddenly everybody's like, hold on a second. What's this feeling? And these dark kind of tendrils, almost veins, start pouring up from the bottom of the palace and it's stretching out and over the castle. And they're like, holy shit, it's the Quilfoff, or I don't know how to fucking pronounce it. We like, what the fuck? This doesn't make sense. We get a full page spread of Nature Boy Ric Flair activating one of his other demon forms, Felis, where he becomes like a, like a leather armor cat boy, which I'm sure will inspire a lot of fan art on the internet. Places I won't go, but places where you can be sure there will be crossovers with Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog, and one of them will be pregnant at the end of it. Stay tuned to find out who.
No lies detected.
Cleefoth. Okay. So Nature Boy Flair uses the shadow magic and sees like, yes, all this is spreading from the Advent Center, but I sense some magic besides Yami and Vanchits's. We go down there and he's like, Morris, the magic scholar who was exiled from the Diamond Kingdom. I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to know who this is. I feel like we were maybe introduced to them at some point, but I don't remember. Morris basically gives like a big explanation of like, it's, this is apparently the person who first messed with Mars and Fauna. Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. He goes like, hey, you know what? I did all those things, but hey, I'm going to use the wisdom of the Heart Kingdom, and I discovered a way to actually accelerate the tree's growth. So to think that in exchange for being born blind, I'd be blessed with abilities like these, the abilities of the devil host.
It's good to know. Good to know. He's blind. Blind. Actually, he's blind.
And he's like, hey, through the power of my devil, my magic has made it possible to extract and transplant even Lolo Pachica's wisdom. So there we go. Doing that is expediting the gate and opening it. So they're like, holy shit, we have to stop. And before Nature Boy Fair can even do that, a demon walks out, 2 demons actually, and they just fucking slap stupid ass Jack the Ripper away. And it looks like Nature Boy Fair only survived because Felis's characteristic is agility. And he's just like, shit, those 2, they're devils of the highest order. And the 2 devils just say to themselves like, oh, I missed. I hit. This will be fun. So it looks like the timetable has sped up a lot faster than they thought. And now the devils are out.
It's a scintillating chapter. It's full of twists and turns and characters that I care deeply about. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
I am excited for the day somebody makes a do you know this Black Clover character test for both of us and see if combined we can figure it out. I will say this. The only thing I liked is I do like that there seems to have now been an actual purpose to bringing Lolo Pachica here. As opposed to like, I don't know, I just need a reason for, like, I guess I'm just going to kind of do it because I'm evil and I want Noelle to be angry so I can get a better fight out of her. They actually are using her to expedite this gate. That's decent.
Oh, but that's not going to happen anyway because she's dead. So
yes, well, yeah, Vanika's dead, so I guess we won't get that rematch. That's a shame. It was really exciting. I was very excited for a rematch between Kenny Omega and Adam Page, but it's a shame that Omega had to die, and now we're never going to get a rematch.
Just Griff Garrison came in and clotheslined him, and his head came off, and said,
Just
wow,
popped straight off.
That's how the Reign of Terror ends. Good job, Griff Garrison.
Who the fuck's Griff Garrison?
Attack team with Brian Pillman.
Oh, I know. That's the BT joke. There was like an old Dark Order sketch where they're like, "We got Jungle Boy," and then Brody Lee's like, "That's not Jungle Boy. That's Griff Garrison." He's like, "Who the fuck is Griff Garrison?"
In front of Griff Garrison. What a good sport he is.
Yeah.
So, I will say a legit personal hang-up that I actually have with this chapter is that, I mean, it was clearly going to happen that, you know, the 3 demon lords or whatever they're freaking called, we had false finishes for all 3 of them, and they're all going to come back. But Mario Leona finished off her opponent really easily and has established, no, that demon's gone. She just won that easily. Cool. Why are we over here in this scene if it's just a bunch of people talking about nobody? I don't know. Anyway, so I didn't like this chapter. I do agree with you, at least in terms of like the plot development of like, okay, things are moving forward. But there's a whole lot of characters that I do not recognize or care about involved in this, including 2 that we've never seen before, and we're only supposed to care because they're very strong-looking demons that have had literally no... Well, no, they were actually mentioned very briefly. I think the last time we saw this scientist character. But I didn't pay attention because I don't care about him. So, it's a very, very, like, selfish personal reasons, but I hated this chapter, so...
That's very fair. And that is it, unfortunately, for this week's Weekly Manga Recap. Leaving off on a
negative note. Fuck everything.
Yeah.
So,
I hate this. Why we slappy things.
You can't be mad at me. My ears hurt. So
that's right. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that in general. So that is going to do it for a Weekly Manga Recap, everybody. But we are going to be picking up another series to read. We might actually be able to cover it next week because it's pretty short and it has been completed. Did I close that? God damn it, I closed it. No, it's here. It's here. It is a series by Gaku Kajikawa that's gotten several recommendations on the WMR Google Doc. It is a romance series, so kind of appropriate as we head in to get ready to gear up for February, Valentine's Day. That apparently contains gender swapping, angst, and bad decisions. So look forward to that, everybody.
Okay. What's the name of the series?
Hina Change.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, let's go over our MVPs and everything like that. So,
Yes.
I will say this was a pretty weak week.
Yes.
I'm going to give it to Mashle. It's not that Mashle was particularly like outstanding, but in terms of like setting stuff up in a way I'm kind of excited about, it's probably the one that made me most excited. Plus, I do like the little exchange between Mash and his dad, where his dad just thinks like, "Oh God, I failed to protect you," and he's like, "No, you were a great dad," and I got to actually experience a pretty good school life for a little bit. So thanks for that. So I do like those moments, but
this was actually a hard decision because of just being short on options. I'm not giving my chapter to Mashle, but I am giving my character of the week to Mash's dad for the same reasons.
Okay.
Although I was tempted to change my mind after we had our big long discussion about Shirogane. Just
oh, it didn't change. Shirogane's mine. He's the fucking best. The best chapter.
Possibly for the wrong reasons, but you know what?
No, best moment. Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody's fucking character of the week was Bond for a dog who has to face his own impending demise.
Yeah.
I picked the hilarious cat who just wanted those stupid horny teenagers to stop fucking in his temple.
Stop fucking in my house! I sleep here!
Get out! I'm trying to watch TV!
He's not even like doing important God Ayakashi stuff. He just like, oh come on, Friends is on.
I'm making tacos. Get out of here. This is unsanitary.
All right.
but you guys can never fuck again. What's your chapter of the week? I'm sorry.
Dr. Stone.
All right. The audience, by the way, picked, as I said, Bond was their character of the week, and Spy Family and My Hero Academia tied for their chapter of the week.
Cool.
There you go.
That's going to do it, guys, for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you for joining us for the show. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we have a great community on our Discord server. They chat about the recommendation. They chat about the chapters when they come out. They chat about all sorts of different fun and weird things. And also, we have on Saturdays a community weekly manga recap Among Us play. So join in on that if you want to get in on it. We want to give special thanks to Ninja X3i, who maintains the Google Doc for us. Very helpful, especially at year end when we go over stuff that we've covered and everything like that. We want to thank everyone who supports us on Patreon for allowing us to help create bonus content for you guys to enjoy. Steve Mann, our Tower Artist, you can check out his work wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn. And Lindsay Dale Cheddar and Milo Jack Stillitz for creating the opening theme for Weekly Manga Recap.
There you go. All right, they're gonna head on out then. I think that's all I have.
Yes.
All right. I feel like we should do a joke. I don't have one to tank.
Chris, my ears really hurt, and I want to take ibuprofen.
Okay.
So...
Well, goodbye, everybody.